Good evening. The old man here, April 25th, 2025. In response to my video from this morning, Joshua Kelleher had asked that, or mentioned that he had come into some money through a retirement account and was wondering whether he should cash out, pay the tax, or roll it into his Roth IRA over the next 3 years. He also mentioned, and he's right, I'm not a financial advisor. And basically, you got to wonder if I'm just not a crazy old man. But my thoughts on the whole process is, at this point, and this is me talking for what I am doing, not what anybody else should do. I, at this point, want no counterparty risk. Therefore, I'm not going to put money in a bank. I'm not going to buy stocks. I'm not going to buy bonds. I think things like housing, in other words, a rental at this time is overpriced. Most things that you would buy to generate income at this time, I believe, are all overpriced. But the biggest thing is in the stocks and bonds and such is I don't want any counterparty risk at this time. And where I've came up with that is central banks. Central banks have realized that, especially the BIS, they have realized that fiat currencies across the world are coming to an end, and that central banks needed to be able to get into gold and get away from bonds. Bonds was a safe haven, the one and only tier one asset that was considered a safe haven asset. Gold is now a tier one asset, and as we speak, and that happened a few years ago, I believe it was 2020, thereabouts. You can look it up. But at any rate, when they made gold a tier one asset, at that point, central banks across the world could start de-dollarizing by selling their bonds or letting them bonds mature. They didn't necessarily have to sell them, just let them mature. Normally, they would let them mature, roll them over, take the interest, and put it all back in again, and keep building up their balance sheet. If their currencies were having a hard time, they could always sell bonds to prop up their currencies without having to print. It was a good strategy, but now gold being a tier one asset also, and realizing that you don't want counterparty risk. They know the U.S. is printing and or will print in the next, if they're not printing now, they will print in the next emergencies. Emergencies across the world and all of these economies are going to be more and more frequent all the time. So they need to de-dollarize, get out of those bonds. Excuse me. Also, since the first of the year, we've seen the stock market roll over substantially. It's not even acting rationally at this point. All Trump has to do is tweet and it goes up, or tweet and it goes down. The problem with that is, and I'm not saying what Trump, I know Trump's manipulating the markets for a reason. I'm not sure what that reason is. He may be just putting feelers out there to see what reactions are. But the one thing I know, or I can tell, when markets are that reactionary, that means that most of what you see in the stock market right now is uneducated retail. Those are not big time investors. Some of the money managers that I've been listening to, of course, they're still in the stock market. They really need to be if they're managing somebody else's money. They're not going to tell them the truth and, hey, dude, you need to get all your money out of this thing and she's going to blow. What they're trying to do is get a substantial amount, somewhere between 5, 10, and maybe even 20% of their customers, the ones that are any good, are trying to get 5, 10, 20% of their customers' money into gold, physical gold. There again, no counterparty risk. If it was their own money, I am sure that they're getting it out of the stock market, and getting out of counterparty risk. Some are talking about, buying rental units and that, or converting some of it to rental units. Personally, I don't think that's a good thing at the moment. In that regards, if the pandemic taught us anything, that if you owned rental property and your renter decided to quit paying, there was nothing you could do about it. You could not evict. In an emergency, even Trump would do that. And again, might not have nothing to do with Trump, might be the Congress. Congress could pass something like that where you could not evict until the worst is over. So I don't think rental units or housing is a good play either. The other thing besides the central bank stacking gold and dumping bonds, look at the stock market, and the big players are selling out their positions. And when I'm talking about, there's other facets of that as well, but the ones I'm referring to at the moment is what can be considered the greatest investor of all times is Warren Buffett. And he's sitting on $350 billion in short-term bonds, of which he could turn quick if he had to. So at the moment, he's sitting on $350 in short-term bonds, waiting for the market to crash and to pick it up at the bottom, or start, if he really sees a good move, let's say 50% down from where it's at now, even if he doesn't feel that's the bottom, he'll start moving in. When you got $350 billion to deploy, when you feel it's anywhere near the bottom, you're going to start moving in slow. It's going to take a while to get all the way in anyway. So just like getting out, when you're moving that much money, it's going to take you a while to get out as well. He's he's gotten out of the stock market for the most part. I'm not saying he's entirely out, but he's gotten a lot of his funds out of the stock market, and that took him probably 2.5 years to get out, or to get to the position he is in today. So, Warren Buffett, like I said, one of the best investors ever, is sitting on the sidelines. He does have counterparty risk with bonds, but as long as he's managing somebody else's money, he really doesn't have the ability to go all physical gold. Again, if he did, then they'd be asking, well, what the hell am I paying you for? I can buy physical gold myself. I'll just get out of the stock market, cash out, take my money and buy gold. So other than that, though, I'm sure he's moving some of his funds into gold for his clients, but for the most part, they're sitting in bonds. But they're definitely, and that's short-term bonds, and they're definitely pulling out of the stock market. But also, you take like Jeff Bezos he's from Amazon. He's sold many millions of dollars of shares, and what you really got to think about that, you might think, whatever, he's taking profit. No, you don't understand. The richest man in the world doesn't do that. He doesn't cash stocks in because he's got to pay income tax when he does that. He would be better off if he borrowed money against those stocks, and he could easily borrowed money against those stocks he's not paying any income tax. So if he's cashing in stocks and paying income tax and paying the highest rate of income tax you can pay, there's a good reason for it. But he ain't the only one. For some reason, I can't think of the guy's name from Facebook or Meta, whatever. He's done the same recently. He's sold a lot of stocks, millions of dollars worth of stocks in his business. Again, obviously seeing a downside. Again, he's paying income tax where he wouldn't have to pay income tax. All he would have to do is borrow money against his stock shares and not pay any income tax at all. So that's kind of obvious. And then the big one is Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, the president and CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon has cashed millions and millions of dollars worth of shares out. That's telling you something. Those are on their way down, and they're not the only ones. And the other thing I'll mention is, I mentioned it before in a video, and I'll mention it again. In the Russell 2000, of which is your small cap markets in the stocks, prior to COVID, they had estimated that 20%, roughly 20% of the Russell 2000, meaning what, 500 companies, were zombie companies. In other words, they could not pay the interest on their debt, no loan pay on the principal. They could not, or just barely pay the interest on their debt. And you wonder, well, how in the hell can they get away with not even paying the interest on their debt? Well, the banks have got those companies on their balance sheet. They've loaned them money as well as stocks. They're selling stock shares as well, but they've got money on loan from the banks, and the banks don't want that on their balance sheet. So they won't show that as a loss unless they absolutely have to. They don't want them to file bankruptcy because if they did, some of these big banks would be blowing up. When you had 500, in 2020, they figured 500 out of 2,000 companies would have been 500. Let's see, maybe I'm off on that percentage. It was 20%, so 20% of 2,000, 20% of 1,000 would be 200. So I guess roughly 400 companies. Yeah, 400 companies out of 2,000 were zombie companies. And I've been trying to watch that over the last couple of years, trying to find another stat. Really couldn't find it, and here just a bit ago I heard it on a video. And they're now estimating that as much as 48% of the Russell 2000 are now zombie companies. Well, why would that be? Well, over the last, 2.5 years, they've been raising interest rates. Well, if they couldn't, and keep in mind, these companies, when they borrow money, they only borrow money for like 3-year duration, 2 and 3 year durations. So if they borrowed money back when it was only 0, 1, 2, 3%, and now it's 4, 5, 6%, that they would have to borrow at. And they were a zombie company before, or even near a zombie company where, okay, they were paying their bills, but they were just barely making it. Now that the interest rates are up and they've had to refinance because their term on their loan was up, now 48%, so damn near 1,000 out of 2,000 companies are now zombie companies. And that's where you're starting to see these companies. Actually, the banks have finally said, oh my God, we just got to start doing something. And you're seeing companies like Red Lobsters and others, well-known names, starting to go bankrupt. And that's what it's all about. That company has been in trouble for a long time, and the banks have been carrying them, and now they're finally having to show it on their balance sheet. Eventually, as these guys file bankruptcy and they quit keep propping them up, you'll see more and more bankruptcies. Well, which is going to mean you're going to see more and more layoffs as well. So definitely the stock market's not the place to go. And with that being said, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your whatever, they're almost all in the stock market, or mostly in the stock market. And with most of the time, you really don't even know what you're into. What they've got you into in Wall Street is well known for bundling shit together and then peddling it to the public through through different stocks and that they really push, and they really make look good. So be careful of that as well. There's some stuff there that's fixing to blow up. The bond market is fixing to blow up. A lot of these zombie companies are going to start going by fast, and you're going to see, all of a sudden you're going to see the numbers, the reality, the truth of unemployment. Those numbers are going to start coming out, or closer to the truth. Even if it isn't the whole truth, it'll be closer to the truth. And then everybody's going to realize we've been in recession. Actually, they'll just finally admit they are in recession, but in reality, we've been in recession for a minimum of 2 years. And in certain ways, if you look at it, really, we have never come out of a recession of 2008. They spun so much money off in 2008 that and the government spent so much money, and they printed so much money, and quantitative easing and all of this shit all made it look good, covered up the fact that we were in a recession. And now if we go into it again, in history, they'll paint this as a depression, but right now they will never admit that we're in a depression. I believe, in this currency crisis, it could very easily see 20% or more layoffs, and that is the definition of a depression. In the meantime, like through the last couple of years, we should have been in a recession. Technically, we were in a recession other than unemployment. The only thing that kept us from being officially a recession was unemployment. And the truth of the matter is, the Biden administration just hired tens of thousands of government employees that were probably not even doing nothing, just put on the payroll to keep the illusion that unemployment wasn't rising. So, keep the numbers down. And so, yeah, it's that's not looking good either. It's hard for me to say what anybody should do with retirement. I know what I've done. I'm de-dollarizing. I got my business. Yeah, I got inventory in that. But my inventory's hard assets that I can sell at any time. In fact, I'm selling them every day and replenishing them every day. But if things really got bad, they're hard assets. Would I prefer gold over a gun? Not necessarily, especially in hard times or rough times. Firearms are going to probably be worth almost as much of their weight in gold as gold is. Who knows? It might get a little crazy there. But yeah, I would definitely, myself personally, I have definitely de-dollarized in every aspect I can. I'm prepping every aspect I can from, like I said earlier, we're butchering a hog this weekend. Helping my buddy butcher actually 2 or 3, but I'm buying one of them, bringing it home and getting it in the freezer on Sunday. And in the future, I'll be working on canning that up. Christy and I are buying a cow and splitting the cow. I'm taking like 3/4 and she's taking 1/4. And we're going to be freezing that up for now just because we can't can that much hamburg and roast at one setting. So through the summer, I'll be picking that off and, you know, because I don't trust freezers. Too many things can go wrong. It's too expensive. You know, I can can that up. I've got the jars I need. I've got the lids I need. And whatever I use, I'll just replenish as well so that I got even more to use next time or on the next project. Never hurts to stock up on more lids and more jars. So prepping there as well. Like I've said before, if you spend all your money on gold and you have no preps, when shit hits the fan, you're going to spend all your gold trying to get those preps, because the food is going to be and other things that you really need bad are going to be extremely expensive. Either through hyperinflation or the fact that they're just not available. Therefore, if the supply chains breaks down on any given product, whatever it is, and everybody wants it or needs it, that commodity, whatever it is going to go up exponentially. And or if they really print to the moon, you know, just start shooting dollars out there like they're going out of style, well then hyperinflation is going to take over when everybody realizes how fake the currency is. And right now it's just running on faith. There's nothing backing it up. Nothing's backed up the dollar since 71. It's been running on faith and misunderstanding ever since. If the majority of the people understood the monetary system, it would have collapsed in 71. But obviously it didn't, and they were able to keep manipulating the markets, keep manipulating the education of the people, misdirecting them, fleecing them of any wealth they had. So, you know, here we are today. So it's got to come to an end this time, and it's obvious. There's never been a time where, you know, gold was a tier 1 asset, and it, you know, it's replacing the bond, therefore it's replacing the dollar. And when the fiat currency, the only thing it's got going for it is faith, and everybody across the world, and then eventually the United States citizens are going to realize that, you know, their faith in the dollar has been misplaced, and they're going to run to gold. So, you know, at that time, gold's going to be very difficult to get and or very expensive. It may almost be impossible to get for the average person. If you got enough leverage and enough pull, you might be able to buy it. But I think anything that we would be able to afford, 1 ounce, quarter ounce, 10th ounce, grams, are all going to be sold. And just to show you what it can be like is in Korea, their currency had been debased by 50% here a few months ago, and everybody ran to gold, buying, you know, spending that old Korean won as fast as they could to buy gold, and they basically diminished the stockpiles of 1 ounce gold. Now, does that mean gold is gone entirely? No. What that means is something somebody can afford is gone entirely. And even if they had the gold and they want to produce the gold, you can only produce it so fast. When everybody in the country wants it, and you're set up to do it at a certain rate, so many, you know, maybe thousands of ounces a day or whatever it is, or grams a day, you know, just because you want more doesn't mean you're going to get more. Even if you have the gold, it's going to take it a while to turn it into those 1 gram bars. So that's going to drive the price up higher than hell. Premiums are going to be double. You know, if a gram of gold costs you $125, premium is going to be $125. So it's going to cost you $250 to get a gram of gold. And nobody's going to care. They just want to get rid of that shit once everybody wakes up. Same thing with China. You know, for the most part, you know, their average citizen, we're not talking about wealthy people, but their average citizen are buying grams of gold. In the past, they've been known to heavily invest in real estate, and as of a couple years ago, the real estate market, housing market really took a shit, and lots of people lost money, lots of money. and they haven't recovered from that. And you know, their citizens where they do have money, they're buying grams of gold as well. They can't afford anything more than that. But even then, of course, those people are big savers. The Chinese people as a whole, I can't say, I don't want to lump everybody into one category, but as a whole, the Chinese people do tend to be big savers, a lot better than Americans are anyways at saving money. And they tend to believe or live well below their means. So even what you and I might consider a peasant can afford to buy a gram of gold. It's all where they put their priorities. They'll live with a lot less than you would think they might be able to. They'll live with a lot less and and still be able to save, even if it's just a gram here and there. And you never know if we might be in that position as well, where we'll at some point be lucky to be able to afford, the average person that is, be able to afford a gram of gold. And so if you can afford a quarter ounce now, a half ounce, a tenth ounce, a full ounce of gold, buy it now. You know, that's the thing, is now is the time before the rest of the American public wake up, because it's not just the spot price. You know, gold's going up pretty quick in spot on the spot price in the futures market, sure. And that's because it's got so many tailwinds. But right now, you know, as expensive as you might think gold is today, if the American population wakes up to this fake fiat currency and they start to dump it quick to go to gold, like I said, where you might buy a gram of gold right now for 125 bucks, let's say, you go out and buy a gram of gold, which is very high premiums, doesn't matter. You can watch it double in a couple weeks. If those grams of golds are gone and that's the only thing anybody can afford, the grams of gold that are out there some will break loose, and but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay 100% premiums on it. You know, so a gram of gold that would cost you today $125. Even if spot's the same, when shit hits the fan, or the banks break, or stock market takes a 50% shit, or the bond market gets worse than it even is, you're going to see some major event happen, and at that point you could easily expect premiums on gold and silver in any form, the premiums double. So you know, I'd get that move on now. You know, as far as diving all in on my retirement, I don't know if I was in that shoes right now. I know without knowing what I know, because I spend many hours a day investigating and digesting as much information on stocks, bonds, you know, geopolitics across the world, see where the other countries are headed, what they're doing. Again, what they're going through now, we will go through in about 6 weeks. So whatever you see major happen somewhere else, it's only about 6 weeks away from us. So 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. It's coming. And that's only because we got the reserve currency. You know, if we reach a lag, or we have a lag in what's coming to the economies. So compared to others. So we'll see how that all works out. But again, if I hadn't studied it as much as I did, or have had, and I had any questions on it at all, I probably wouldn't be able to go all in on gold. You know, so let's say I didn't, you know, if you could go back 2 years ago when I first started stacking, and knowing then if I know now what I knew then, which was not enough, let me tell you, not nowhere near enough. At that time, I think it would be pretty tough to even do 20% of my retirement in gold and silver, gold or silver, but I would highly recommend gold at this point. And the big reason is gold has so many tailwinds at the moment. You can get, in the meantime, that it's going to take silver to catch up. you can get quite a bit of gains on your gold. Obviously, here we just did, you know, at the first of the year, we were at like 26.50 or something like that on spot. And right now, well, I think we're right up to 33 again, a little 33 and change again, something like that. That's a hell of a lot of gains. And I think we can do that again before silver, you know, silver's going to go up slow, slow and steady, maybe get 10% gains a year. Unless something breaks, then it's off to the, you know, it's off to the races. But as long as nothing is broken and they manage to keep calm, keep everybody calm and no chaos, or not much chaos. Obviously, the markets and everything are chaos at the moment, but still, they're managing it. As long as they're managing it until it gets away from them, you know, you're going to have some time. But until it really takes off, you know, gold is going to make the gains and silver is going to lag. And that's because everybody that's major players, the major players are all buying gold right now. They're not buying silver. If they are buying silver, they're buying very little silver. Speculators are starting to move into silver and they're pushing it forward some. But then again, they don't want to push too hard because they can buy it at these cheaper prices. So if you're making a move on silver, as big money is making moves on silver, they make small moves. Take their time, accumulate as much as you can without affecting the market, or affect the market as little as possible. If they make big moves, they push the silver up too fast for their liking. But as far as gold is concerned, you know, you know, the water in the lake is gone and now you can see who's swimming naked, you know, as far as that goes. And what I mean by that is you can see who has the gold and who doesn't has gold. At least the big bankers can, the central banks and that, and they're making moves. They're making moves to get more gold. And honestly, it's to the point where even China doesn't care anymore. It's just like, we need more gold, we need more gold, we need more gold. And, you know, they've made it legal for citizens now to buy it through their bank account. They've also, like I said in a couple videos ago, the Chinese have made it so that it's mandated that insurance company have at least 1% of their portfolio in gold. So if I wasn't able to do it at all before and I wanted to do it, but I couldn't, and now it's obvious, you know, now I've been mandated to do at least 1%, I'm going to be pushing harder than 1% because obviously if you take these portfolios across the world, they're not going anywhere. Just like I said, if our stock market's in bad shape, their stock market's in worse shape. If our bonds are in bad shape, theirs is in worse shape. So if they now can start stacking gold to cover their losses, you can bet 1% is just a start. And as the one guy was saying, and Alistair McLeod, in fact, is what I was trying to remember, he was saying that with that alone, by the end of the year, that will push gold, put it, Ruger, that will push gold up $500 by itself. And that's if they only go 1%. What if they go 5%? Okay. Trump's talking about, he's mentioned, and don't know exactly how this might work, but he's talking about deregulating the banks. What does that mean? Does that mean maybe our banks can get rid of some of their bonds too and start stacking gold? What would that mean? What if our banks went to 1% gold? What would that do to the price of gold? All these things are adding up. And And the reality of it is that that's why you see gold pushing so forward so fast. Unfortunately, gold's priced in the futures market. I think if it was priced in only the physical market, you'd see it move up and stay up and not get knocked back down periodically. And, you know, the central banks and that, sure, bullion banks, they want to see it get knocked down, because if they knock it down, they can quick pick some up at those cheaper prices and then let it ride up again. That also serves the purpose of washing out weak hands. Anybody that doesn't have the education to know where gold is going and they're not sure, and gold goes to 3,500 and then drops 200 bucks like in 48 or 72 hours, a lot of people, I'm imagining, especially in the paper market, a lot of people got out. But I'm sure there's a lot of people in the physical market that's just waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for gold to take a major dump. In fact, some of the YouTube channels were even talking yesterday, and I saw the videos this morning, but they were talking yesterday of gold going, they're thinking gold going as low as $2,600. Well, my worst case scenario would be gold going to its 200-day moving average, and as of last night, that was 37.77, and if it went to 37.77, its 200-day moving average, man, everybody would be on that like you would not believe. And she'd blow right, I mean, they'd jump on that so hard, she'd blow right past $3,400 and probably to $3,500 if it ever got that cheap. I don't see it getting that cheap. I think we'll see it somewhere between the $3,200 and $3,400 range over the next few weeks, unless something else comes up that drives the markets. And like I said, the markets right now are so screwy and so I think uneducated and emotional, that all Donald Trump's got to do is put a tweet out there. Depending on what direction the tweet is going, you could watch gold jump a couple $100 in a day or 2 days, and you can watch gold drop a couple $100 in a day or 2 days. The market is super irrational right now in the paper market, and that's what prices gold at the moment. That will not always be the case, but for now it is. And so that will serve to shake a lot of weak hands out of the market. And that could even be physical. Somebody that's paid $3,500 an ounce for gold, you know, here a few days ago, and then all of a sudden it dropped to, you know, it dropped to 32 something an ounce. They'll be regretting that mistake, and they may not get rid of it right away, but you bet your ass they ain't buying any more, maybe ever. So that really does do a lot to shake out weak hands. And so at any rate, that's where I'm at. I think I would be looking strongly, and in fact I have looked strongly at all the evidence of gold being pushed hard by several different tailwinds, and those tailwinds for the most part overall will keep pushing gold forward. We'll see some retractments, we'll see some consolidations, we may see a few weeks where it's kind of quiet here and there, but we'll see days where it's extremely hot. So we're going to get a little bit of everything for sure. But the thing to know is to stack them, hold on to them, and at the end of the day, it's going to be the only thing that has value. Everything else, no matter what it is, if you went out and bought a car thinking that's a good hard asset, yeah, it is. But you also got to remember it depreciates at a certain rate, no matter what the environment is. You know, no matter what the markets are, that will depreciate at a certain rate. The markets, of course, will regulate what rate that is that depreciates at. Could be fast, it could be slow, but they all depreciate. The only thing that does not depreciate in value is gold. Silver is highly manipulated. I do believe there's a time where the GSR is going to get pushed to 175-ish to 1, and at that time, as it's getting closer and closer, let's say 150 to 1, 160 to 1, that'll be the time to double down on silver. At that point, you've got a very short window for it to get pushed high, and when it gets high, it may stay there for a little while, maybe a few months, maybe 6 months. It'll stay at that very high peak, whatever that number is, and that will be your window to change from silver to gold before they are able to smash it back down. And they will to some degree. I'm not saying they'll smash it, all the way back down to $35, no. But if it gets to be, let's say, $160 and they smash it down to $100, still a smash. That's a hell of a smash. Okay, even if it settles out at 100. But gold is going high until it's revalued. It's just going to keep going higher and higher and higher. And at some point, there's going to have to be a revaluation. We'll see. If it's not revaluated, then the dollar just goes into hyperinflation, in which case it's going to, in hyperinflation, it's going to reset, the gold's going to reset itself. So one way or the other, either the government's got to do it or gold's going to do it. But we will have some sort of a reset. It could be ugly, it could be not so bad, we'll see. So, running one of my longest videos. I've been talking for way too long now. Starting to ramble a little bit. So we'll call it good. My apologies for Ruger here the last 5 minutes making a ton of noise. But I hope you got through it. Hope you could understand what I was saying. I think you can. Again, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Any comments, go ahead and put them in there. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.